Thanks for tuning in to Prime Sports NASCAR for this Friday, the 1st of November, 2019 on the Prime Sports Radio Network. Brought to you by RaceReviewOnline.com, RotoWire.com, and Covers.com. Make sure to visit Covers Experts at experts.covers.com. And you could take 50% off any purchase by using the promo code PRIME50. That's PRIME50. Eric, we have one race in the books as far as the round of 8 is concerned. 2 more to go before we get to Homestead.
Yeah, Truex really put a number on the field last weekend and looks championship favorite right now. So we'll see what we can get this weekend in Texas. Can Joe Gibbs Racing get another victor and get at least half of the championship for next week? Will be the kind of the biggest question. See if Hamlin or Kyle Busch can get the victory.
Well, just so you know where I stand, I did these parlays a few weeks back before or during the playoffs. I can't remember exactly when. They were small. They were like $2 parlays with a couple of football games and the Nationals to win the World Series.
There you go.
And 3 drivers to win the championship. In one parlay, I had Truex. In the other, I had Hamlin. In the other, I had just a straight because the Nationals were like this was when they were playing the Brewers. They were still 16-1 before the playoffs began.
Yeah.
So I just did like $1 and something with the Nationals and Blaney. That's $600, by the way.
There you go.
So I've got 500 on Hamlin, 500 on Truex, 600 on Blaney, and that cost me about $6.
Hey, so, you're looking good right now. You're looking really good.
I hope so. Yeah, Truex is in. So now it's up to Denny Hamlin, who is second in points, who's first, really, as far as the drivers who need to get in and aren't in officially just yet. Kyle Busch is 7 behind Hamlin, and Logano is 10 behind Hamlin. And then you've got Harvick, who is 14 off of the final playoff spot. Blaney just behind him, just a point back of Harvick. Larson 10 back of Harvick. Elliott way back because of his issues, who looks like now there's no way for Elliott to get in without a win.
Yeah, with being 44 points back, it's going to be really tough to make up over 2 weeks. I mean, you're having to outscore like Joey Logano, Kevin Harvick, those guys by an average of 22 points a race, and that will be difficult, especially with. Yeah, Logano hasn't finished real well lately, but he's got a lot of stage points that he keeps accumulating. So without like going out and just winning a bunch of stages and hoping for bad luck everybody else, it's going to be tough. So this time of year, only 8 drivers. It's pretty much must-win situation for Chase Elliott.
The other drivers, Larson, even though he's 24 back, if he threw out a couple of top 5s, does he still need a lot of help, or does he just need one, like between maybe Kyle or Logano, to have a bad race?
That's a tough one. Probably a little bit of bad luck for them. I mean, 24 is not astronomical to make up. I mean, we saw Chase make up, I think it was 22, 23 points at Kansas. Okay. So it could happen. But again, you got to look at the field. There's only 8 drivers playoff eligible now, and there's a reason they're still here. It's going to be tough to make up that much ground in 2 races. Just, I mean, these guys ahead of them, they're all getting stage points. They're all a lot of them that got a chance to win. So it's going to be tough with top 5s. Can it happen? Yes.
Well, Logano hasn't had a top 5 in the playoffs, so he's the one that does. I mean, I don't think anybody would have guessed that if the playoffs started today that Joey Logano would be one of the 4 drivers the way he's been going lately. So. I don't think. I mean, you tell me. I don't expect Joey Logano to be there.
No, I don't either. It's ever since his win in Michigan on June 10th, he's got 2 top 5s total. That's it. And Kyle Busch is even struggling. He's got 2 top 5s in the playoffs himself, 2 of the last 9. So I would say it's coincidence those 2 are sitting 3rd and 4th, the final 2 spots to go on, because you can make a strong case that Kevin Harvick and Ryan Blaney are arguably driving better than them, that could pass them. And Larson's right there. I just feel like the playoff points that we talked about a couple weeks ago, how he's going to enter in that deficit, it's going to be hard to make up. I mean, right, that's the only reason Kyle Busch and Joey Logano are where they are. It's playoff points they've accumulated to get them to this point. But it can only get you by so long. I mean, if you got 2 more winners and this next 2 weeks and none of them are them, one of them is going to be eliminated. It's just the fact they can't have both going on if you have three different winners. So I think they're in a little bit of trouble right now for sure.
All right, now, as far as this week's race at Texas, 15 of the last 17 winners have started in the top 10. Only 5 of 37 all-time winners have started outside the top 20. No one has started outside 31st and won. Chevy has 1 win in the last 7. That was actually Jimmy Johnson. Toyota's won 4 of 7. This is a 1.5-mile tri-oval. Now, there are 7 of these tracks, but the higher banking tracks include Atlanta, Charlotte, and Texas. So does that mean that even though you can look at Chicago, Kansas, Kentucky, and Vegas, hey, it's 1.5, okay, it's there, that Atlanta and Charlotte are definitely, well, the Coke 600 and Atlanta just 2 races, plus the previous Texas race, that maybe we should just zero in on those 3 races as the most similar going into this one?
Well, this one's a tough one too because it's Texas has been repaved and they have a different banking in 1 and 2. It's similar shaped as far as got the dog leg on the front stretch that Atlanta and Charlotte have, but Kansas and Chicago and those tracks. Well, I should say Chicago is a little different because that hasn't been repaved, but Kansas just got to repave, and that's got a similar grip level, I would say, to Texas. Same size, 1.5 miles. Granted, it's just a little bit. It's shaped a little bit differently. It's tough to say whether you'd compare it more to like a Charlotte than a Kansas because Charlotte. But again, Charlotte hasn't been repaved recently either.
So you can move Kansas though into the mix.
I would just because of the repave and the grip levels.
Any of the other tracks or just Kansas?
Probably just Kansas. I mean, I'm trying to think here. Chicago hasn't been repaved, so I really wouldn't compare it to that. Atlanta's tough. They've never, ever since that track was reconfigured in 1997, it hasn't had a repave either.
Which we're happy about, by the way.
Yes. We want to keep it that way. So it would be hard to compare to Atlanta just because the grip levels are just completely different. That's why I struggle to say maybe Kansas, a combo between Kansas and Charlotte, I think would be the most educated answer I can give.
Well, let's take a look. Let's start with, by the way, as far as our picks, I had the first pick. CJ went second. Eric, you went third. I went ahead with Denny Hamlin at 7-1. He is the co-third choice as far as the odds are concerned. CJ went with Truex as the co-favorite at 5-1. You then went with Kevin Harvick at 8-1. Sleepers, I took William Byron at 25-1. CJ went with Ryan Blaney at 12-1, and you took Eric Jones at 25-1. So let's first of all, Denny Hamlin, my top pick, winner in March, led 45 laps, has got 5 top 5s and 7 playoff races. He's got the win at Kansas. He's got the win here in March. So that's a pretty good combination based on what you just said regarding Kansas. Would he have been your first pick if you had it? And if not, who would have been, or would Kevin Harvick have been your top pick?
Yeah, probably Hamlin. Yeah, I mean, he's not defending, but he won there in the spring. He's got 2 top 3 finishes his last 4 tries at Texas. Plus, on 1.5 tracks, he's got 4 top 4s in his last 6 starts on him overall. So, yeah, I probably would have gone Hamlin. Probably Harvick second just because the odds 7-1 versus 8-1. But, I mean, Hamlin's driving better than anybody right now. He's got 4 straight top 5s. He's got 5 in his last 6. He runs well at Texas. He runs really well in general mile-and-a-half tracks this season. So I probably, would have gone Hamlin. But Harvick right there, I mean, that's why I took him at third. He's got 3 top 2 finishes in his last 4 starts at Texas, 2 of which being wins. 2 of those are the last 2 playoff races there too. So it's an intriguing. Can he go three-peat 3 years in a row in the playoff race? I think he can. He's got 10 straight top 10 finishes at Texas.
7 of those are top 5s.
Yeah, this seems to be like his playground. We talked about Kansas or Phoenix being that way, which is coincidentally enough next week. So I think this could be Kevin Harvick time. This could be the time frame that gets the ball rolling. I mean, granted, he hasn't been terrible. He's got 8 top 10s in his last 9 starts. He just hasn't been
leading laps.
That dominating. Yeah, like he kind of was towards the end of the regular season. But this could be the place they turn it back around. I mean, He was eighth in the spring, and oddly enough, he was the worst Stuart Haas driver in the spring race, and that says something that he got an eighth place finish and still was the worst. So I think they'll bring something better this weekend, and he's going to be one to watch. But for sure, Hamlin. I mean, you got to ride the hot hand. So I would say those two would be my first and second
Okay,
choices per
and the
se.
co-favorites are Kyle and Truex. Now you look at Truex, and even though he's been driving well this season with 3 wins in 7 playoff races, he only has 2 top 5s in his last 12 races at Texas. He was 12th in March. He's never won at Texas. Now he does have a runner-up at Atlanta. He did win the Coke 600. Also won Vegas, but those aren't Charlotte. Okay, throw that in there as far as the most similar. But then you throw in Kyle, who is not red hot. He's been up and down in the playoffs, which means maybe he's got a good result coming this week. But only 1 top 5 in his last 5 at Texas. That happened to be a win last year. And he does have 3 wins here in total. He was 10th in March, led 66 laps. So I could see why a little bit they're both 5-1. I would think Truex would, even though he's never won here, probably deserves to be the favorite. And maybe that'll happen because if qualifying goes his way, because as I mentioned at the Open, qualifying does mean a lot here.
Yeah, and the thing is too, Joe Gibbs Racing hasn't qualified real well. Anyways, I mean that's going to be interesting because this is another one of those weeks, like we're talking about, I believe it was last week, about how Kansas, the week prior to that, how we saw just the jumbled up qualifying results. I mean, Daniel Hemrick and David Reagan were on the front row for crying out loud. This is a similar weekend. You're going to have 2 practices today, one starting here pretty soon, and then final practice in a couple hours after that. And then that's it. You qualify on Saturday, and then you're done. So we've seen these drivers in the past, with it being an impound, they elect to qualify on race setup.
Okay.
So with qualifying being important, I mean, the stats don't lie. Starting the top 10 is a key to winning this race, and just both races in general at Texas each year. Who does what? I think that's going to be the one that nobody's going to tip their hand today. But do you see guys elect to go more qualifying trim and adjust their cars as the race goes on Sunday, knowing that track position?
Where do we get that information, I guess, once it's all over? And let's say we get some crazy drivers again in qualifying in the top 10 or in practice. How do we figure out which session was the most important for these drivers?
I would say both today are equal in terms. They're all going to be on race setup. You might see a couple guys maybe throw a swing at it on a couple of qualifying runs, but with only having 2 practice sessions and them both being today, and not wanting to spend a lot of time switching setups, I honestly think you're going to see a lot of the playoff guys at least go race setup. I mean, that means more than qualifying. So the tricky thing is some of these guys, like Chase Elliott, for example, his teammates can be guinea pigs here. They can go qualifying setups for him, and Chase can try to work on like a race setup, and then know Jimmy Johnson, William Byron, Alex Bowman, maybe one of them has a similar driving style to him. And they're like, hey, this is the qualifying setup I think you should put on your car. This worked well. We ran. And Chase may just go just pure long run speed today. And you may look in the speed charts, and this is just purely an example, by the way, but you may see him like not even the top 20 in practice speeds, but you got to look at the 5, 10, 15, 20 lap averages. And if he's got good pace there, then you may know, oh, well, they're working on long race speed, not necessarily short run speed. So you may get a little bit of a hint today after final practice when you look at the long run averages and who's quick and compare that to the short run speed. But I don't think we're really going to know until tomorrow. I mean, Kevin Harvick mentioned at the Brickyard, because in the similar format, he went on race trim the whole practice, never went to qualifying setup, and then he won the pole. They just took a swing at it, and they used their teammates for some help, and he won the pole and dominated. So it's tough to decipher. It'd be tough to see to know who's doing what. The biggest key is going to be qualifying tomorrow night, is when we see who's starting where.
But
I mean, if you see some
you'll talk about it and report on it at Race Review Online, right?
Yes, I will have something tomorrow night because that's going to be the definitive
Okay.
factor. And if you look up and you see like David Reagan and Michael McDowell and Hemrick and guys like that starting the top 10, it'll be like, okay, it's pretty obvious. But the guys usually stay pretty close to the chest, tight-lipped on what they're doing.
Okay.
So we're not going to get a big key other what they're doing today, but qualifying is going to be the one to show. I mean, if you look up and you see all the playoff drivers qualifying the top 10, then okay, they must have went for qualifying sims. But it's just another strategy game that it's intriguing that a lot of people talk about, but it's something there because track position's key still at Texas, and I know they ran a tire dragging on the top lane the other day, but is that going to be a factor or not? So yeah, that's going to be a key. Joe Gibbs Racing hasn't typically qualified well at these races, and does that cost them, or what kind of strategy do they run? And I know for Truex, as an example, yes, he's a favorite at 5-1, but I'd be a little leery of them just because they mentioned they know they're in, and in the past rounds, you could still accumulate playoff points uh, to use for the next few rounds. Well, we don't need that next week. They've made it clear that their goal is to now, over these next 2 weeks, to test for Homestead. I think they're going to do like what Blaney did at Kansas, where he ran the high line and kind of went off strategy and threw a different setup at the car. I think that's what you're going to see out of Truex this weekend. So don't be shocked if he wins. Obviously, he's a good driver. He's got a good team. But don't be shocked if he's like 20th place and not competitive because they could be trying something for Homestead
Okay.
too, which with him being 5-1, that'd make me a little leery just because I know they've openly said that's what they're doing.
Okay.
So we'll see what works.
All right. Let's and not surprisingly, the top 8 drivers, as far as odds are concerned, are all the playoff drivers.
Sure.
Let's take a look at some of the others. Chase Elliott, 701. He's been 13th or better in all 7 races at Texas with 5 top 10s, 2 top 5s. He was 13th in March, which was his worst result, but did lead 35 laps of the 44 all-time that he's led at Texas. So he's always fared well, it seems, at this track for one reason or another. Doesn't really have a whole lot, though, with this type of racetrack and some of the other similar tracks. So I'd be a little bit concerned with that, especially when you dive a little bit deeper and realize that Chase has got 3 wins this year, 2 on road courses and 1 at Talladega.
Yeah, he's a tough one to figure out this weekend because technically he's a good fantasy play. He's a solid top 10 driver, but you got to look at his recent stats on a mile and a half in general. I mean, he's got 4, kind of like Hamlin, 4 top 4s in his last 6 starts on him. I mean, he was second in Kansas. He ran good in Vegas. But then again, what are you going to get out of him? I mean, because he's got to go for a win. He can't do the same thing the guys in front of him are doing. I mean, you get to the end of the race and we see one of those, late race cautions tend to go and like they did in Kansas, where guys, took 2 tires, 4 tires, different strategy. He's got to do the opposite. I mean, that's what he's at. He's 44 points back. You can't do the same thing they're doing and expect to make up points on them. They're all solid, capable cars and race winning potential. So for them, I think they've got to go off strategy. They have to do something different, which makes me a little concerned because you're swinging for the fence. You're going to hit a home run or strike out, and the strikeout rate would be pretty high for doing something like that. So I'd be a little concerned with him just for where he sits. I mean, 44 points out, you got nothing to lose. So do they try something different? Maybe they're a prime example. Maybe, I know I just used them as an example, but maybe they just focus on qualifying setup, get a good top 5 starting spot, and try to hold down the fort up front all day on Sunday. So that's a little wary. Larry, I think 7-1. I get why they put him there because of his stats, but I don't know if I'd put him on Denny Hamlin's level.
Yeah,
would you?
that's it right there. You hit it. Or even Kevin Harvick, based on how well he's been, how much he's dominated this track over the last 5 years. So
I'd put him probably 9-10-1, maybe a little more intriguing. But putting him right there is tied to second best odds with Denny Hamlin. Yeah. I mean, that's a little steep for me this weekend.
All right, as far as Logano and Larson, they're also 8-1, just like Kevin Harvick. Logano's got 12 top 12s in his last 14 races at Texas, 8 of those top 5s. He's also got a runner-up, a win in 2014. He was runner-up at the Coke 600. He won Las Vegas, but again, no top 5s in the playoffs, 17th here in March. Larson's got 3 top 5s in his career here, 12 races, runner-up 2017. Average finish, though, just 20th at 20.4, and he's wrecked 3 times in his last 4 races at Texas, including earlier this year in March. His only top 5 in the playoffs was his win at Dover.
Yeah, these two scare me. These are the two more that scare me this weekend. Yeah, Logano, because the stats are there for Logano to run well. I mean, that's what he's done in the past at Texas a lot. We know he's going to qualify well. He always qualifies well, especially at Texas. So it just scares me because since his win, he's got 2 top 5s, and I'm talking about his win in June. I mean, that's tough to just flip it on like that.
Yeah.
Plus, does he have the is Hamlin in his head? I mean, after that whole ordeal last weekend, is there something going on?
I didn't even realize that had gone on because the race was kind of a foregone conclusion late with Truex, and I didn't stay for anything. You know, it's Sunday. I had other football and other things, and baseball, the World Series. So
Yep.
it wasn't until I watched the show on Monday, and then I was like, "What is that? Like a clip from another year, or what is that?" And I didn't even realize that they had gotten into it after the race. Of course, I remembered what happened. Yeah, do you think maybe because of Logano's age, do you think that this would be in Logano's head more than Denny Hamlin's?
Yeah, I do. We've seen this kind of carry over with Logano in the past, these issues, and Hamlin's a guy that he just seems to put it past him, and he almost uses it as motivation. That I just don't know with Logano with as bad as they've been lately.
Yeah.
I mean, they're not a championship caliber team, and it seems like they always say water finds its level, cream rises to the top. They're not there. So I just feel like they're finding their level, and just playoff points have got them by, and this is the round that's going to do them in, and it would be fitting. I mean, if he wins, does that show he's a championship caliber driver? I don't think. Or driver, yes, but team right now, no. I mean, 2 top 5s in like 18 races is not a championship team right now, and so I just don't trust them. I think that this could be another rough race for them. They could get stage points and do all they need to do, but it just seems like they can't finish in the top 5 in the end. And Larson, he's just another one tough to figure out. I think I was looking, he got 6 of his starts at Texas have been 23rd or worse. I mean, he was, like you said, he was last in the spring race. But 1.5-mile tracks lately he's been good at. I mean, he ran well at Kansas before kind of bowing out there in the end, but he didn't need to risk anything. He was already into the next round. So it's a one to figure out for a tough one. 3 top 5s in his last 12 tries there. I don't know if I would risk that either. I mean, it's hard to believe those two are 8-1 with the same odds as the guy that won that race 2 years in a row.
Yeah,
it's kind of weird odds. That's why just at the favorites. So I said Hamlin and Harvick, to me, out of that group, the guys that are like not double digits to 1 odds, those are the only 2 I'd really put much stock in right now. We'll see what practice holds, but it just seems like the way they're running right now, and as good as this track has been to them, they're shoo-ins, but the others, you can make a case against them. And I'd be a little wary for Larson and Logano, too.
And then you've got Ryan Blaney. And Blaney is sitting there just 1 point behind Kevin Harvick for 5th place in the playoff spot. And he's been 12th or better in 5 of his last 6 races at Texas, including 2 top 5s in his last 3, with a runner-up in this race last year. From the pole, by the way. He led 40 laps. He led 45 laps before overheating his engine in March and finished 37th. He led 148 laps in the 2017 race. And like Kyle, he's been up and down in the playoffs. Unfortunately, if that continues, this is a down week for him. But overall, 4 top 10s in 7 playoff races with 3 top 5s and a win. And his confidence, as I talked about last week, is just sky high, and they could not have picked a better time of season for his confidence to be at the level where it's at.
Yeah, I was shocked he was 12-1. I think if anything, he should be in that group of 8-1. But I don't think he's ever been 8-1 all season, which is probably why he's not that high.
Yeah,
but
I'll tell you the reason I actually did my reason for taking Byron over Blaney was more of a handicapping reason, because I have Blaney with enough money to win the championship that it was almost like hedging my bet. I was like, well, if Blaney wins and I don't get the pick, that's okay. One of the other guys will take him, and this is all about our group of 6 picks each week, and one of us gets a win. It's good for us all. But that's the reason why I did it. Otherwise, yeah, Blaney did seem like an easy top sleeper pick this week.
Yeah, I contemplated with going with him as my top, but Harvick at 8-1, winning this race 2 years in a
There
row,
you go.
and
Yeah.
second in another one. It's like, where am I going to get a guy like that for 8-1? So,
True.
yeah, I mean, runner up last year, and he should have won the spring race. I mean, he had that good of a car. He's good at Texas, like 3 top sixes in his last 4. He's got some momentum on his side. He's hungry. He's another guy that typically qualifies well. We know Penske's typically got speed in short and long run scenarios. So I look for him to be there in the end. The only thing that scares me about Blaney is it just, and we talk about this a lot, is it seems like in the end, it just like him and his crew chief have a disconnect and they just don't do the right pitch strategy. I don't know how many times we've talked about why did they not take 4 tires or why did they take 2 tires here? It just, if they can be on the same page.
Reminds me of Pern and Truex the year before they won the championship.
Yes, exactly right. It just seemed like they just a little bit off in that area. If Blaney can, if the stars align, where, and I mean what I mean by that is they've got the right pit calls, they've got no pit penalties, the car doesn't have any electrical malfunctions,
no bad luck, don't
no flat tires.
Yeah.
Like then I think he can outright win this race. I think he's that good, and honestly, I think to shake these playoff standings up, I would applaud it. I think that would be great because then you'd have a Truex and Blaney. Because I mean, right, you'd have a guy that's sitting outside the top 4 right now. He'd automatically be in. So that leaves Phoenix next week, and you would have Hamlin, Busch, and Logano
and
throwing
Harvick.
Harvick.
Yeah.
4 guys for 2 spots.
That's right. Yeah, that
so
would be nice.
I think that makes things. And then you have Chase Elliott, most popular driver, and you got Kyle Larson, who's good at Phoenix, all right there going for a win. I just think that adds the intrigue.
Sure,
so
yeah.
I would be happy if Blaney could win this weekend because I think just for the playoffs in general, that would really throw this thing upside down.
All right, now we got a couple minutes to go. So as far as the rest of the sleepers, now you've got Jones, I've got Byron. Byron, to me, just seemed like a good way to go because he's got 4 top 10s in his last 7 all playoff races. 2nd last week, 5th at Kansas, 6th in this race on this track, in March from the front row. He led 15 laps. So I just like the way they're going right now, confidence-wise. I think William Byron is as confident as he's been all season. You went with Eric Jones. And Jones has got 4 straight top 10s at this racetrack, including a 4th-place finish in his last 3.
Yeah, and they're equal odds, too. I think both of them are easy top 5 contenders for sure. I mean, yeah, Byron's driving as good as he's been ever right now. And he's got 2 top 10s and 3 Texas starts. Hendrick seems to have something figured out in 1.5 miles, especially in qualifying. So he's one to watch. And Jones, yeah, I mean, he should have won the race in the spring too. He kind of picked up where Blaney left off, and Denny Hamlin had a better pit strategy on the last pit call because Eric Jones, if you remember right, was leading heading that final pit sequence and came out too far back. I think he was 3rd or 4th and couldn't make up for it. So he's a guy that I'd watch. I mean, he led 30 laps in April. He's got 3 straight 4th-place finishes at Texas. And then if you look at his Xfinity starts, 1st, 4th, 2nd, 4th, and 1st. This just seems to be a good track for him. The only thing that scares me about him is he hasn't had a top 5 since the Southern 500 win.
Exactly,
so I just felt like 25-1, he's the next best. But another guy too, Kurt Busch.
Yes.
4th and 6th the last 2 weeks, 5 straight top 10 finishes at Texas. 7 of his last 8. His only thing is he hasn't had a top 5 there since 2010. But he's running well right now, so he'd be one to watch as well. But past that, I think it's going to be – there's a lot of sleepers, but it's going to be hard. I just think with the way Blaney, Hamlin, Harvick, Byron, Jones, those guys are racing, it's going to be tough to have somebody outside that fine victory lane.
Yeah, I think it is a good week for sleepers. I think there's a lot –
yes.
And even Brad Keselowski, who is I mean, at 14-1, that's the eye-opener there. Hey, I can get Brad Keselowski at 14-1. He's got 4 top 5s in 7 playoff races, 3rd last week, even though he was eliminated. So he won Kansas. He won Atlanta. So that intrigues me. And then you mentioned a few of the others. And Jimmy Johnson, of course, has had such a great career here. 11th or better in 5 of his last 6 races this year, if we throw out Talladega. You've got Boyer, runner-up in March. You've got Almirola, 7th in March, 8th in this race last year. And even Suarez was 3rd in March. And you can't forget Ryan Newman just keeps popping up every couple of races and doing something we're not expecting. So there is a lot of sleepers to keep an eye on this week.
Yeah, and it's what's going to be tough is because of the playoffs and what's at stake. But you also got just look at the spring race, prime example. I mean, it's the biggest example you can use because this is the only race on this racing package. But out of the top 12, 8 of them belong to the Gibbs and Stuart Haas camps. None of them were Penske. So you know those 3 are going to be at least Blaney and Kozlowski up front. And then you got all 4 Hendricks that could be there. So on a track that could be tough to pass on. I mean, we've seen what the dirty air does. That I think pitch strategy and eliminating mistakes could be the biggest key this weekend because you can make a solid case for probably 10, 12, 15 drivers even that we wouldn't be shocked if any of them won the race, and a lot of them are in the sleeper category. So this is a good one to bet this weekend.
Yes,
I would say
agree.
you can bet more sleepers than you can favorites just because of what we said about the favorites. So, and if you hit one of those sleepers, it could be a good payday.
And if Kyle Busch or Martin Truex Jr. ends up qualifying well and their odds go down, I think that's better for the better because that makes all the other drivers that we feel have a shot this week with better odds, especially since, again, it's been so long since Kyle's won, and we don't think Truex is going to be focused to win this race. So, yeah, I think it is a good wagering race as well, and you'll be updating everybody over the next couple of days at racereviewonline.com. Correct?
Yep. Yes, I will. I'll have stuff tonight about more of a practice recap. Just I've been kind of adjusting those lately instead of doing like who was quick in this session and that session. The more that NASCAR is released, they've done a good job at this. I give kudos to them. They'll give you 5, 10, 15, 20, 25 laps if they run them and practice the reports and the speed charts on all those. And like all the drivers say, they don't necessarily look at single lap. I mean, a race is not one lap race. It is like Martinsville last weekend, it's a 500 lap race. You got to look at who's not just quick on the single lap speeds. So we know he's like, all right, this guy might be good on 1 lap and 5 lap averages, but who's also good on 10, 15, 20 lap averages.
Okay.
And if it's the same drivers, you really can figure out who's good to bet on. And then you throw all that with past stats, and you can formulate all together and get who to watch. So I've kind of switched my practice reports to that. So instead of doing one of each session, I will do one big one about who did what in practice and why and who to watch, since that's the only sessions you see of the weekend because the next day would just be qualifying. So that'll be tonight. Tomorrow night will be qualifying. It's a rare race weekend where you would think that since the Cup race is on Sunday, the Xfinity race would be like Saturday afternoon and qualifying Saturday morning for the Cup, but it's not. There's nothing until 5 o'clock tomorrow. So Cup guys don't qualify till 7. So I'll have a qualifying recap, and then like we talked about at the start of the show, kind of deciphering who did what in terms of like track position, who focused more based off practice from today on short run speed for qualifying, or you're going to see like a Kyle Busch, Truex, Harvick, Hamlin, those guys in the back. So I'll put all that together and have that for tomorrow night. So kind of lengthier post this weekend, I should say.
All right. Well, it's good that you got that extra time then, and that'll make it easier as well for the readers and anybody that wants to place a wager or get their fantasy kick in. They'll be able to check you out at racereviewonline.com and get all that great information. As always, Eric, great job. Enjoy the race, and we'll talk to you again next week when we gear up for the final race before Homestead.
Yep, sounds good. Thank you.
You got it, Eric.